Global shifts, local impacts. We connect the dots so you don't have to. From the BizNews studios, welcome to the BizNews Daybreak for Thursday, the 12th of February, 2026. I'm Alec Hogg. Here's the context you need to win the day. A couple of crackerjack in-depth local pieces for you today. The Julius Malema versus Paul O'Sullivan showdown in Parliament that happened yesterday. And the executive chairman of Saai, Dr. Theo de Jager, one of our most esteemed global experts on the agricultural front, uncovers a vaccine scam of COVID-19 type proportions in the way that the Department of Agriculture's cronies are profit-gouging by insisting on controlling and charging 300 Rand for an ampoule that the makers say can be landed on farms for 55 Rand. Wow. But first, the freshest overnight news with the focus on Venezuela, a boost for coal-fired electricity and power stations. That'll warm the hearts of Thungela, whose share price was already very strong yesterday, and growing tensions in Iran. Here are our partners at Bloomberg.
U.S. Energy Secretary Chris Wright is in Venezuela, where he'll make an assessment of the country's oil industry. Wright met with Venezuelan's acting president Delcy Rodriguez, and he's expected to meet with several government officials. Wright said the U.S. government is working to issue new licenses to businesses who want to work in Venezuela.
We know that working together, the people of Venezuela and the people of the United States, this year, we can drive a dramatic increase in Venezuelan oil production, in Venezuelan natural gas production, in Venezuelan electricity production, and most importantly of all of these are to increase the job opportunities, the wages, and the quality of life for all of the Venezuelans across the country.
That is U.S. Energy Secretary Chris Wright. President Trump is ordering the Pentagon to purchase electricity from coal-fired power plants for military operations. Trump announced millions of dollars to upgrade existing facilities. This includes $175 million to fund upgrades to 6 coal plants.
Under our leadership, we're becoming a massive energy exporter. In just the past few months, we've made historic trade deals with Japan, Korea, India, and others to increase our coal exports dramatically. We're now exporting coal to all over the world, and the quality of our coal is supposed to be, I'm not an expert in coal, but I've been very good to the people that are. The quality of our coal is supposed to be the finest anywhere in the world.
Trump also said the actions would help boost coal power generation, and the president said this would deliver in turn lower prices for consumers and ensure industries critical to national security had steady power supplies. President Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met today in Washington. Trump said he spoke about his intention to press ahead on talks with Iran. Trump also said his preference was to reach a deal with the Islamic Republic despite reservations from the Israeli leader. Netanyahu is pushing for limits on Iran's ballistic missile program and its support for militant groups. Here is Bloomberg's Catherine Lucy.
It's clear from the president, that he's saying that this was a good meeting, but that he wants to continue talks to see if he can reach some kind of deal with Iran. And I think we know from talking to folks around the prime minister and from our reporting there that there is concern on that side about what such a deal could look like, and that's I think certainly part of the reason he was here. There's concern about what kind of deal President Trump might agree to, what the scope of that would be, but clearly nothing decided today.
That is Bloomberg's Catherine Lucy. Meantime, the Pentagon has reportedly told a second aircraft carrier strike group to prepare to deploy to the Middle East as the U.S. readies for a potential attack on Iran. The Wall Street Journal reports President Trump was weighing a second carrier strike if negotiations were to fail. Now, the deployment of a second carrier would mark the first time there have been 2 carriers in the region in nearly a year.
Well, both gold and the rand are as you were this morning after virtually no change in the major US indices last night. A rare quiet day for investment markets. The S&P was flat and the Nasdaq was down less than 0.1%. Uber, Google, or Alphabet, and Palantir sagged a little, while Apple, Tesla, and ASML were a bit firmer on Wall Street last night. Locally, a very strong session for Thungela, as mentioned earlier. Also, some of the other resources were headed higher, a lot of them up around about 3%. Sasol was 5% stronger, and Capitec, though, had a very powerful trading update. Profits are going to rise between 20 and 25%, it told shareholders. But that was met with muted enthusiasm. Such are the high expectations for South Africa's top-rated bank. Well, the first of those two in-depth pieces today. We don't usually run our clips more than 2 or 3 minutes, but this time we're making 2 exceptions because they really are well worth listening to and pretty riveting stuff. First of them, Parliament's committee rooms are usually places of dry procedure, but not when Julius Malema and Paul O'Sullivan happen to be in the same place at the same time, which I don't think has ever happened before, but it certainly happened yesterday. The EFF leader and the forensic investigator locked horns in a fiery exchange over O'Sullivan's qualifications and payments from the Hawks. Listen to this intense clash where Malema accuses O'Sullivan of infiltrating the system, and O'Sullivan fires back that Malema has been watching too much TV.
After you went to, the military intelligence, did you work anywhere else except when you left the military intelligence?
Did I work anywhere what?
Did you work anywhere after you left military intelligence?
Yes, I did.
Where?
I'm not telling you.
Why?
Because it's none of your business.
It's none of my business.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, that's fine. You don't have an answer, and I know you don't have an answer because the question after that was going to be, where did you get the money to invest in the property investment? Because you were just from school, went to military intelligence, and then the next thing you come to South Africa for tourism, you love the place, then come back to South Africa to invest in property development, and not only in South Africa, but in different kind of countries. Where do you get that money from? Because military intelligence will not have given you such pensions.
No, a pension, I don't get a pension at the age of 26 or 27.
That's what I'm saying. Where did you get the money
property development, and I made profit.
Where did you get the money to invest in the property development?
The first development I did, I borrowed the money from the bank, and I made a profit. And I reinvested that profit in another property. And I made a profit there. And I reinvested that in another property. And I made a profit there. So that's how property development works.
No, I don't buy that story. Mr. Paul O'Sullivan, property investment is a very expensive investment. My suspicion is that you were given money out of the military intelligence to go and be an investor in different countries to continue saving them, in spying those countries on their behalf. But you must look like you are an investor.
With respect, Chairman, I think the honourable member has been watching too much TV.
Why?
Because you're speculating.
You have never worked to get money to qualify to engage in property investment.
How do you know that?
That's what you told me, at least. You went to work at military in intelligence, and then from there you worked in a firm. You can't tell me, because if you tell me that firm, I will be able to evaluate, to check, and make 1 + 1 to see if we can make such money to invest in property investment.
With all due respect, my property investment activities took place probably when you were still a baby.
Yeah.
But the reality of the situation is, if a person is an entrepreneur and he makes money, how can you then jump into the conclusion that that person is being paid from a government fund or something of that nature? That's pure speculation, and you don't have a shred of evidence. So what you're actually doing is you are making these speculations. It's your idea, and it's wrong.
No.
And I'm just pointing out that you are wrong.
No, my idea is that because I was a baby, and it's not my problem that I was a baby, it is my mother's problem. She gave birth to me at that time. I've got nothing to do with what I was at that time. So because you were an old man, you have to teach me how you came about to become a property investor. You can say I'm formulating it because we've put you there, and we want you to educate us as to how did you become this big property investor from just military intelligence.
I won't say I was a big property developer, but I was a property developer. And when you bring money into South Africa, you convert it from pounds to rand. You get quite a significant amount more rand. And if you look at the property prices overseas and you look at the property prices here, you can buy more property here for the same amount of money you will buy much less overseas. And I decided to get involved in property development. And if you find that suspicious, it's a problem. And I believe the reason you're finding it suspicious is because you and certain other members of this committee are looking for ways of covering up the criminal conduct of crime intelligence officials and the abuse of the slush fund. And that's why we have people like Pashlani, who's on trial at the moment, getting away with the crimes that they're committing, because Parliament, or certain parts of Parliament, are not exercising their duty of care and their duty to look after the interests of the country.
Mr. Paula Sullivan, if you know me, I'm not part of the nonsense you're talking about. Not me. I'm not part of any nonsense you're talking about. I'm not part of any slush fund or anything. I question people the same way I'm questioning you, all of them, including Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi. I questioned him because I'm about the truth and nothing else but the truth. And I'm not going to be patronized or be intimidated by anyone, not me. They can try with other people, not me. Okay. So you must never ever group me with people who are involved with some people who are doing wrongdoings in the crime intelligence. If you have been following the proceedings here, you will see that I've taken the same posture with everyone. You are talking about former General Patlani. He's still coming to us. We are not done with him. When his turn comes, we'll attend to him.
This is where the unthinkable happened. They just came here and took his car.
No. I sold it to them. What's this?
It's crime scene tape. Did they pay you at least?
Within 15 minutes, money was in my account.
Were you happy with the number they brought you?
I got almost the same price of what I paid for the car. Everything was easy, everything was painless.
Well, there you have it, South Africa. With WeBuyCars, you won't come short. I'll tell you really.
1.93.
WeBuyCars, the easiest way to sell your car by far.
The second of our in-depth pieces today is from the interview that I had with Saai Executive Chairman Dr. Theo de Jager. Saai is an organization that looks after family farmers, and it's kind of Theo's retirement gig. He ran the World Farmers Organization internationally. He was based offshore for some years, and then decided to come back home, as we all do, hopefully anyway. And this is what he's been busy with. So now here's a guy who's a farmer himself. He started off, well, he was a farmer who became involved in organized agriculture, who is a straight shooter, who has deep knowledge. He has a PhD, so he knows this is no dummy. And in our interview yesterday, we looked at some of the major issues that are going on around foot and mouth, and listen to the interview, particularly towards the end, where he explains how vaccines are now starting to look a little bit like what happened with COVID-19. He didn't say it, that's my words. But the vaccines, we know with COVID-19, there were a lot of snouts in the trough. And it's all been exposed, and, well, nothing's happened, or not much has happened to them yet. Who knows, maybe down the road. But he also refers to a very interesting point where John Steenhuisen, the Minister of Agriculture, has been following, apparently, the advice of Dr. Gideon Bruchner. Dr. Bruchner is a legend internationally. He is a veterinarian who essentially helped the Brazilians to overcome their foot and mouth issue. He is based in South Africa, just around the corner from where Steenhuisen lives, but apparently the two of them haven't had a cup of tea yet. And from what Theo de Jager tells us, Steenhuisen in the Department of Agriculture, and indeed a couple of agricultural economists who've been quoting Dr. Bruchner, have not actually been quoting him accurately. If anything, they've been putting words into his mouth, which Dr. Bruchner apparently says, according to de Jager, is false. Wow, what a story. Let's have a listen.
If they are really adamant that the state must control every aspect, they have already transgressed their own rules. You see, the vaccines are not made by government. It's made by private sector in Turkey and in Brazil. They package it, they ship it here. Government wants to receive it on this side, and it's not necessary. We have much better storage facilities in private sector. And then the logistics to send it out to every corner of the country. I mean, there's a network of veterinarians, close to 300 of them, all over the country. But there are not that number of state vet offices. Why do they want to control everything? It is because Dr. Bruchner says it's a state-controlled disease. And this is where they are clutching on to. But state control is actually better understood when you translate it to Afrikaans. There's a big difference between staatsbeheer and staatsgecontroleer. What we want them to do, what we are pushing them to do, and what we are in court for now, is to say, if every ampule, if every dose has a barcode, government can only receive the list of barcodes, and they will know exactly how many doses came into the country and where it is. There is no reason why the vaccines cannot go from the manufacturer to their local agents. And both these two laboratories in Turkey and Brazil had their own local agents. And the minister committed about 12 times that he will work via these private sector networks. But then came the letter onto social media where Biogenesis Bago said the Department of Agriculture have made it very clear to them that they are not prepared to work through the local agents. They want to position themselves as the agent, and they terminated the agency agreement. Now, there's something highly irregular going on there. And although the minister denies any knowledge of it or any involvement in it, to get into the clear, he should just write a letter to Biogenesis Baker and say to them, I have no problem of yours working directly with your agent, and then they can monitor it from the agent. But they are not doing it. They want to be the agent. And of course, there's the issue of price. We know that the vaccines come in for around 45 Rand per dose. We know that RMIS paid 60 Rand a dose in October last year. The two agents both told us that they can land it on our farms for around 55 Rand per dose. But then on the day before Christmas, the department said that it will cost farmers about 300 Rand. And immediately the farmers asked, where will the difference go to? Also, when the Director General made a remark that he still has to put out some of the aspects of the distribution on a tender. You know, farmers hear tenderpreneurs and they hear slowing down the value chain and lots of profits. And this is what they are terrified of. For us as farmers, our absolute priority is to find the shortest route between the manufacturer and our cattle. And we know that route is a private route.
There was a piece that was written by two economists, Johan Kirsten and Wandile Sihlobo, which the minister sent me and said, read this, because these guys actually know what they're talking about, not like Theo de Jager, Saai and the others. And they rely heavily on Dr. Bruckner. But it seems like it might be a bit selective then. Is this what you're telling me?
When I received that opinion piece by the two economists, and I immediately realized these guys have been asked for political purposes to write this piece. They say they quote the law and the regulations, but then they quote very selectively the international regulations, and they use these words state-controlled. And this is why I called the Brazilian farmers and thereafter called Dr. Bruckner. And Dr. Bruckner said, this is not what I said. I'm afraid that article of Johan Kirsten and Wandile Sihlobo will come back to haunt them. And our colleagues in Brazil said, we know Dr. Bruckner. He's a hero around here. But he allowed us to vaccinate our own animals. Dr. Bruckner himself said, there's no way they could have vaccinated that number of animals had they not put the syringes in the hands of the farmers, the farm workers, and volunteers.
With violent crime a daily reality, many South Africans see legal firearms as a crucial line of defense. But new legislation that's heading to Parliament next month could change everything. My colleague Chris Steyn spoke yesterday with Jonathan Deal. He's of Safe Citizen and an activist on the whole firearms front. And he warns that the bill will leave vulnerable citizens defenseless, calling it an unenforceable law with nothing to do with public safety. He says it's all about ideology, and he is convinced that the bill is doomed to fail. Common sense, he reckons, will prevail, and had it not been for armed citizens, one might only imagine what the mobs would have done in the KZN riots in mid-2021.
I have seldom seen such a volume of opposition to the notion of an amendment bill as this. And I have seldom seen actually such a facile and poorly drafted piece of legislation, something that if it were to come to pass is basically unenforceable and will have an enormous a negative effect on the population of South Africa. The only conclusion, and this is not my conclusion alone, it is now becoming a de facto theme running through social media and legislative circles, is that the ANC is simply pursuing an ideological agenda. It is probably based on their antique ideology, but it is a very serious piece of legislation were it come to pass. And quite clearly, the reasons that they have put forward for this bill, in inverted commas, to enhance public safety, will have exactly the opposite effect. Any person with any brains or rationality would be able to see that from a mile away. The bill simply focuses on law-abiding firearm owners, who are the very people that actually play a positive role in our societies, which was ably demonstrated in July 2021 in KwaZulu-Natal. And quite frankly, who are the only people that can respond to a violent public incident if necessary, and not only looking after themselves, but other people in the public. So it's ideologically inspired. It has got absolutely nothing to do with public safety.
Fascinating stuff, isn't it? Well, now you have the edge. For the full interviews and the details behind these stories, head over to biznews.com. I'm Alec Hogg. Thanks for starting your morning with us. Now go and seize the day.